What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast, a video game show where we talk about the games we love, the games we hate, and everything in between. Although, really, Mogan, I gotta say, we hardly ever talk about ones we hate. We normally are just talking about
Rage 2
like the one game out there, Rage 2, that we were like, no, this game is trashed here. We pretty much love all the video games that come down the pike because they're all so wonderful and fill our hearts with joy. And that's what you'll get here on Team Chat Podcast's discussion about said video games. But I'm one of your hosts, Jarrett Wilson, joined across the power of the internet by my co-host, Rachel Mogan.
Buongiorno.
How you doing this morning? How
you we were supposed to record earlier in the week, but I got my second Rona shot. I took my little sippy sip of Rona juice, and I was like, it's probably not gonna be that bad. my hubris.
It was that bad.
I was fine for like a few hours. And then the arm hurties still started, and that's pretty much all I've got left is like my arm still really hurts.
Yeah.
But later that night, starting at around like, I would guess 1 a.m., give or take, I woke up with, I have to imagine what was a severe fever. Because I was I don't know a thermometer, but I was so hot. My skin was like scorching to the touch. Had the worst sleep of my life because everything hurt. Like everything hurt. I was so hot. Nothing I tried could get me comfortable enough to go back to sleep. It was terrible. And that lasted pretty much through most of yesterday as far as like just being like, ow. Everything hurts.
I'm sorry.
My headache eventually went away, but that was as good as it got, and now it's finally all gone.
Good. That's what I've heard from people who have like had a big reaction to it. It really does last for like 1 day. So still go get the shot, everybody. Go get that vaccine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better. Back to almost 100%.
And now that we're both fully vaccinated,
that's right. Vax to the max. You know what that means, everybody? We're going to be back in studio in no time. I mean, unless something happens that prevents it from happening, I'm pretty sure next week's episode will be back in the old studio. So I am
so excited.
I'm so excited. I don't even know if I've told you, but I've made some changes to the decor.
You did, but I haven't seen it yet.
I know. We're going to go. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. It's going to be, let me say it this way. The old will be new again. In some ways with the old
Did you paint the table?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't paint the table. It's still
black.
But just like, people who have watched the old YouTubes for a while will recognize that things are different again.
Something's different.
Just little tease for everybody to get you to come back next week. You know what I'm saying? To stick in and just be like, at least see what the studio setup looks like now. And then be just like, all right, never mind. These fools are boring. But if you want to see that sweet studio setup and you're here watching this episode, well, that must mean that you are a fan of the show and here to know that new episodes of Team Chat Podcast come out at 9 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday mornings each and every week. You can listen to those episodes on podcast services around the World Wide Web, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and others. You can also watch a video version of each episode over on our YouTube channel, where you can see our sweet studio setup next week. Find us over on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you put those places into your URL search bar or in your apps and just say @Team Chat Podcast or /Team Chat Podcast, you'll find us there. You can also join our Discord server where we have a lot of great conversation outside of the world of gaming. And obviously we talk about gaming too, but lots of fun discussions happen over there when we're not here recording the show. And finally, if you want to help make the show bigger and better, you can do just that. Just like Zach S., Susan M., James K., Ben W., Michael B., Fuchsia Rascal, Andrew M., Michael S., Brandon W., and Mariah K. have done by going over to patreon.com/Team Chat Podcast, where for as little as $1 a day, you can support the show. And in return, give you cool perks like getting the episodes early before their general Tuesday release. You'll also get access to a private channel on our Discord server, the Rogues Gallery, that is specifically for patrons. And patrons at our $5 tier also get, along with getting the audio and video versions early, also get a 2-week early access to our subsidiary show, Team Chit Chat, where Mogan and I talk about topics that are not gaming related at all. Quick note to that. I know it's been a minute since we've put one out, and I'm very sorry. We have one recorded. It's in, and I just got to get that edited up and out there to everybody. With the month off we took, I understand that we took a little break with that as well, and we will be getting back to a more normal schedule on releasing those team chit chats. So thank you for your patience.
Yeah, and also another quick note. Jarrett did in fact mean $1 per month, not per day.
Did I say per day?
Yeah, you said $1 a day.
If you want to do $1 per day, we'll take it.
We're not going to stop you.
But no, it's only $1 a month. Let me thank you for that correction. People are like, "Whoa, the Patreon got expensive lately.
It got pricey." Well, there was
barrier to entry is just too high.
There was that pipeline hack. We get most of our money from oil stocks, so
that's true.
That's true. So
we took a hit. We took a hit. But before we get into but also if you can't do that, no big deal. If you can't afford that $1 a month or the $1 a day, no big deal. You can still support the show and help make it bigger and better just by listening to each episode, subscribing wherever you interact or watched with the show, telling your friends, writing us reviews. All that stuff helps get the good word of Team Chat Podcast out there to the masses. We love and appreciate all of our patrons and listeners alike. Can't wait till next week when we can do this heart emoji in person.
I feel like they're actually a little harder to do in person, but this is fine.
That's true. The angle won't be right to the camera.
Yeah, the
can't just put it right up
in
front of us.
we'll still do them though.
Yeah, we'll still do it. Don't worry. This core element of the show will not change when we get back into the studio settings. But before we get into the main topic of the day, let's get a little bit of news and what's coming out soon in our Moment with Mogan.
Okay, real quick, in case you missed it last week, a couple of bigger things came out that you may or may not want to pick up. Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I personally need to go pick this one up because I do really, really want it. Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is the remaster of the entire trilogy, not including Andromeda. Don't worry, you're protected from that one. Is out now for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Subnautica has also been ported to the Switch as of the 14th. Along with its new, I don't want to call it an expansion because I think it's its own game, but Subnautica Below Zero, a frostier version of Subnautica, is also out now for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And then out as of, is this going to be this episode? Yes, out as of this episode's air date. Sorry, I had to check my calendar. Days Gone is finally coming to PC.
Oh, nice.
How long has that game been out?
I
feel like it's been a long ass time.
Almost 3 years.
I
feel like it was a 2018 because I know Horizon was 2017, so I feel like Days Gone was a 2018.
Well, whatever. And then coming out for the Switch on the 18th as well is SnowRunner. Ariel _Knights _S never. These names.
What is this game?
Ariel Knights Never Yield, and it's spelled Ariel like flying through the air, not Ariel Little Mermaid. So Ariel Knights Never Yield is
under the sea.
Yeah, under the sea. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That's out on the 19th. So is Elite Dangerous Odyssey for PC only. The Wild at Heart comes out for Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC May 20th. Is this a rare Xbox exclusive? That would be fun.
That would be fun. I feel like we haven't seen many of those lately.
Yeah, coming out a little bit later in the week on the 21st, we've got Knockout City for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, along with Miitopia. I know a lot of people are excited about this one.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, Miitopia is finally coming out for the Switch on May 21. So is Rust. Ooh, Rust I've actually heard a lot of people talking about, and I almost want to try it. But I'm not entirely sure yet. But anyways, Rust is coming to PS4 and Xbox One May 21st as well. And that closes us out from next week.
Very cool, very cool. We did have a couple little... What?
I'm looking at the art for the Wild at Heart. It looks really cute. I'm going to have to do some research on this game. It looks like it might be up my alley.
Is that's the one that was the potential Xbox?
Yeah, good point. I guess. Well, I do have Steam.
Nope.
I've got Steam now. Yeah. I've got a PC.
Most of that stuff is like interchangeable in between. So like we did have a couple quick little news stories. Actually, today's episode is very news heavy. We're talking about a couple different stories that have been going around the interwebs lately. First one that we want to start off with, though, is that a little bit of information was given out recently in a Wired article about the PS5. The article is the PlayStation 5 is starting to look like the revolution it promised, which is very exciting because obviously we've had the console for a while, and with a few exceptions such as Returnal, Demon's Souls, and stuff like that, there have not been a ton of PS5 exclusive titles as of yet. And we're already, 6-ish months into the, I guess, yeah, six is, I can't talk, 6-ish months into since its release. And so the big headline here, though, this is called out from Nibel on Twitter at Nibelian. Nibel? I don't know whichever way you say it. At Nibelian says that from the article, PlayStation's Herman Holst told Wired that there are 25 first-party titles in development for PS5. Nearly half are new IPs. That's exciting.
That's really exciting. We can assume that Kena Bridge of Spirits is included in that 25. So I
would imagine so, since it's not. Which my God, that's been popping up on my radar with more screenshots. I saw it in my I forgot I tagged it in my PS5 wish list, and I was like, oh my God, it's gonna be so good. But
this is, please go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
I was gonna say, this is a very silly aside. I saw on either Instagram or Twitter that Ember Labs was doing a little special promo of DLC for if you pre-order the game. If you pre-order Kena Bridge of Spirits, I think you're guaranteed a little pack of special hats for your little
I did see that.
Your little pseudo Pikmin, and I was like, that's pretty cute.
I'm all about it.
I like that.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be a pre-order for me for sure. So
yeah. I would there if I could get a PS5, but whatever.
I think is that one you want to save for PS5? Because I think it might go PS4 also.
If it does, I'm gonna have to. If it's also for PS4, because we'll talk about this later. Anyways, continue with the current story.
So anyway, lots of good stuff to read there from the article. But the big thing, though, and the thing from this article that I got most excited about, other than the fact that nearly half of those 25 games in development are new IPs, this article does confirm that still, as of now, Horizon Forbidden West is still slated to come out in 2021.
Which I gotta say, that is exciting. That's good news.
Yeah.
How much have we actually seen of the game yet?
We have seen that first, I think, the announcement trailer, and then I think we got another trailer after that. But that has been months now since we've gotten anything else. Maybe getting close to a year, because maybe it was E3 or a state of play that Sony did mid to late last year.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, so I think that it's good that they are still... The puppy dog!
Oh, no, it's not the puppy dog. I adjusted in my chair and hit my desk, and now figures started falling over. Things were shaking. Sorry, I apologize.
So I just feel like it's great that they're saying that it's going to come out in 2021. I personally would still be surprised if that actually happens.
Oh, sure.
Just given the state of so little is still currently known about it, because for example with Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart, they slowly released more and more information, and then they released this 15-minute play demo at the recent State of Play. So it's okay, yeah, they're really ramping up actual hands-on experiences with the game to prove basically that it's playable.
Yep.
And they haven't done that yet for Forbidden West. They could just wind up doing it Nintendo style. They could be like, here you go, everybody. It's out right now. You can go play it immediately. We're going to do this demo on stage right this very second. And then everybody will be excited and buy it. They could do one of those, but that's not typically Sony's MO. So I feel like...
But also E3 is a month away.
E3 is a month away, and we do still have a little over 6 months left in the year. So it's still very possible, just given how many other bigger name games have been subjected to, pretty common delays. It's not novel. I wouldn't be surprised if it got delayed.
Same. I got the fingers crossed. We were talking about this before we started recording. I'm a forever optimist, so my fingers are crossed that it will happen still this year. But I'm also setting myself up for there's a good chance it won't.
Well, and this kind of leads into the next thing that we want to talk about, because these sort of go hand in hand. part of me almost hopes that Forbidden West gets delayed and
Hmm.
Kena Bridge of Spirits again, because as we've seen with more and more news articles coming out, they are expecting that PS5s will still be really hard to find into 2022. There is still a chip shortage going on. It is hard to get the materials required to make these units and push them to people that can actually buy them and not scalpers. So they're expecting there to still be console hardware shortages. And that's a problem for a lot of reasons. The main one being that people like me can't play the cool new games that are coming out. But the other reason is if you have so many people that want your console that has these kinds of exclusives and they're not able to buy them, by the time they finally get their hands on that console, will they go back and buy games that they may have missed? Because I was thinking about this, like
Good question.
Returnal, Resident Evil Village, which I don't think that's an exclusive, but the same thing kind of applies.
Right.
Games like that that are these bigger, badder exclusives for PS5, who's going to be playing Returnal in a year? If they finally get their hands on a PS5, they've probably already forgotten about it. Maybe not. People like me go back and play hella old games. But I just worry that it might be low-key damaging sales and sales potential of specifically PS5 exclusives. If a
Yeah,
game is
no.
also coming out for PS4, sure, that's not that big of a deal. But if it's just for PS5 and you're not reaching your maximum potential market because you don't have the hardware to push it to them, that's kind of a problem for developers. Not necessarily for Sony, but for developers, I can imagine that that's kind of concerning, right?
Yeah, I mean, because the whole big deal is like you want the game to succeed. I agree. Like I know there obviously like there's markets for these games because I know Returnal's done really well in its sales and all that stuff, but still, and we know that while the chip shortage is also a big problem, the other bigger problem that's causing this difficulty to get is of course the ever present scalpers.
Yeah,
So it's like
bots,
it is
scalpers.
a problem in that yeah it may not these games may not be able to see their full effect. I agree. Like
Are they? Because I feel like this might be something that we could actually start to avoid if they would actually start selling PS5s and Xbox Series X's and S's in stores again. Why aren't they doing that anymore?
yeah, because I know they didn't do it last year because it was a
Because of
whole
the
thing of just like the
pandemic. Yeah, it
pandemic. We
was a
don't want
safety
like
issue.
lines of people outside. But true, now with the vaccination rates,
Yeah.
especially even the recently announced CDC guidelines of now fully vaxxed people don't necessarily have to wear their masks in all the places. So like, and I mean, things are just opening up again more in general. So you're like, yeah, I would imagine you would start seeing those coming to store shelves soon,
Yeah.
and that might help as well. But obviously, too, then at that point, it's the chip shortage.
Yeah. So it's just we've
It's
got
weird.
problems on
Yeah,
problems over here.
yeah, I know, and I mean, maybe that is why they are kind of like holding back and not why we haven't got a lot of information on for Forbidden West yet and stuff like that. It could not be ready, but it could also, to your point, be that they're just like, let's see how long we can hold off on this until
Yeah.
we can get more PS5s into the hands of people who want them. Because obviously the demand for them is there. That's why there's still queues and all this stuff making it difficult for people to be able to get one. So
In
hopefully,
other news that's kind of tangential to this, I think I saw a report that in April 2021, you know what the best-selling console was?
April of 2021.
April of this year, last April. What
I
was
mean,
the
Switch
best-selling
probably,
console?
right?
Yeah, of course, it was the
Yeah.
Switch. So even with, I mean, I'm sure a big part of this has to do with that availability, which just goes to show that they're missing out on revenue. Because if
Yeah.
the Switch is still the best-selling console, I mean, it's less expensive. There are lots of different things working in the Switch's favor. It's less expensive. It's a little bit more, in perception, family friendly. It's
Right.
a lot smaller than the PS5, than the big
Well,
chunky
cheaper.
PS5, and it's a lot cheaper. So there's a lot of different factors for that, but I'm sure the availability of PS5s is a big one hurting it. But also that goes to say that Nintendo is also starting to put some kind of low-key hints in the water that like, hey everybody, we're not immune to the chip shortage. You might start to see Switches become less available as time goes on. So if you were thinking about getting the Switch, you might as well go on ahead and get one now because
Snatched up off those shelves.
they might be a little bit harder to find in a while. Especially for the holiday season. Start planning for the holidays now. If you were going to get a Switch, just buy it now.
Which is crazy. Like, a chip shortage is not something that I would have anticipated happen. Like, we have to make computers and like all this stuff. Like, how many millions of computers are probably made a day? Thousands, probably. Million is probably too high of a number. But still, like, that's just something I never would have anticipated being a shortage of. But
yeah, and I mean, in terms of like the PC scene, this has been a problem for as long as the PS5 issue has been going on, because people that want to build their own PCs are having the darndest time being able to find the parts for it because there's a shortage. So
that's true with like the graphics cards, the processors, especially. I know the graphics cards there for a while were in low demand or high demand because of the Bitcoin mining and all that stuff, and then that so it's all crazy. It's crazy how all that stuff works together and influences it all. But hopefully, that'll get changed so that yes, you can get a PS5 and start enjoying the wonders that it is. But still, I still say come set up a profile on mine. When you come over to record, just hang out for a while and play games on it.
Oh, you're right. Kena Bridge of Spirits is coming to PS4.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm just going to get it on PS4 then. Unless, of course, I get lucky and I'm able to actually snag a PS5. But if you, good listener, are able to buy a PS5 and are willing to sell it to me at market price for no additional upcharge other than shipping, I'll happily buy it from you.
Shipping and knowing that in having the joy in your heart, knowing that it's going to the homes of one of the greatest voices in video game journalism.
This is for you. This is for your benefit, not mine.
Right. Those warm, fuzzy feelings inside.
Just like the feelings that these cute little rotes will give you when you're playing Kena Bridge of Spirits.
God, they are cute, though.
Oh, they're so cute.
I'm so excited for that game.
I'm just going to still call them new Pikmin. They're just new Pikmin.
Pikmin 2.0?
Pikmin 2.0, yeah.
So the main story, though, that we really wanted to spend a little bit more time talking on is another news story. It came out within the last week on May 11th. And this is from videogamechronicle.com. Ubisoft says it's changing strategy to focus on more, quote, high-end free-to-play games. Assassin's Creed firm says it will no longer rely on 3 to 4 AAA games each year. This story is by Tom Ivan. So a little bit of background on this, because obviously that sounds, I know there's a knee-jerk reaction to that when you see that immediately. No, cutting back on the AAA games that they release each year, focusing more on free-to-play. Okay, that sounds from its offset like maybe not a good thing. But that's what I wanted to talk about. We've each read this article. We've gone through it. I'll read a little bit more of the article here in a second. But we kind of wanted to share our thoughts on what this could potentially mean. And so, because we also know, man, I'm blanking on it now, but what was the big announcement Ubisoft made recently? And by recently, I want to say it was in the last 5 months or so. But something else about they were taking their games on a different direction with wanting them to be these longer, bigger, ongoing things.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
It was basically just saying how they were recommitting, I guess, to the idea of open world games. And it's weren't you already doing?
Or just these longer ongoing experiences and stuff.
Oh, yeah, so, you're right.
I feel like those two announcements kind of go hand in hand. And so if you saw that one, this one isn't necessarily that of shocking of a thing, because what is one way to make a longer ongoing experience? Yeah, sure. A free to play game that goes on for a really long time, following the various different models for that with either season based events, just normal events, continual cosmetic additions into the games, what have you, expansions. I mean, World of Warcraft, you could say it's not free to play, but still, it's this long ongoing game that you can play for ever and ever and ever and ever. But let's get a little excerpts from this. So it says in the article, Ubisoft is shifting away from its traditional strategy of releasing 3 to 4 premium AAA titles each year, but plans to launch, quote, high-end free-to-play games for all its biggest franchises. Which is interesting. We'll talk a little bit about that later. So this is the quote from Ubisoft's chief financial officer, Frederick Duguay. He says, in line with the evolution of our high-quality lineup that is increasingly diverse, we are moving on from our prior comment regarding releasing 3 to 4 premium AAAs per year. Basically, they want to make people to say with this that this came out too, and I think because this was a little update to it, because it says Ubisoft then told VGC later its free-to-play push does not mean it will release less than premium games. For anybody who's kind of tied up on that, or them saying like free-to-play are less than the normal AAA, it's not like they're going to be like lower quality games and stuff like that. But just wanted to add the distinction for the premium or not. But the CFO continues to say this is a purely financial communication evolution and doesn't change the fact that we continue to expect a high cadence of content delivery, including powerful premium and free-to-play new releases. So on that same lane, like they did just announce The Division Heartland, which is going to be like a free-to-play spinoff of the Division series. They already have Hyperscape, which is their battle royale. And they even, I guess, own, I missed this fact, that they do own now the game Brawlhalla, the like beat 'em up Super Smash Brothers-esque game Brawlhalla. So all of those are already these free-to-play titles that they have. But the big question then is what are our initial takebacks from this? Like how does this hit you, Mogan? Like you see this, what do you think?
Just going to put on my little conspiracy prediction cap. I think that the story came out, the rumor come out, that Ubisoft did this press release in their, not press release, it was in their earnings call or something. They mentioned this in one of their earnings calls, and people freaked out because everybody was like, oh no, we don't like the sound of that. So then they had to come out with these additional press releases that were like, no, don't worry, we're not going to be making fewer 3 to 4 AAA titles per year. We're not doing that. We're just adding on. I personally think that was just damage control, and that their long-term plan, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but I feel like their long-term plan is to do exactly that, is to pivot away from releasing bigger titles that are complete games in and of themselves. I think they're slowly going to start. I don't think they'll stop doing it, because I do feel like that market is kind of always going to exist and you'd be a fool not to embrace it. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do eventually start seeing fewer full, complete games being released at full price. Now, there's still going to be DLC probably in the mix somewhere, but it would not surprise me at all if we do eventually see Ubisoft transition more into, here are all of our free-to-play games, and they're loaded with microtransactions. That's how we're going to get your money. So right. Even, you kind of mentioned this, like, freemium versus premium doesn't mean a reduction in quality, and I completely agree with that. What I do think reduces quality overall is the user experience, because if you're playing a game that is packed to the gills with microtransactions, your experience is going to be impacted, and you're going to have a worse time. And that's the piece that I'm worried about, is like, God, microtransactions already suck. And calling them micro isn't even true in a lot of cases. They're more like macro transactions because they're so expensive. So I am a little bit worried about that. We're still seeing problems with freaking Marvel. That game that they made that everybody hates.
The Avengers one?
Yeah. The Marvel's Avengers? Yeah, that's the one. They just released a new seasonal thing or like an event or something, and all of the premium skins and like the good stuff is 100% paywalled. Even for shitty games, because it's not a good game.
That game's not even free to play. Like it was a full price.
Not even free to play. So I feel like that's what we're gonna start seeing more of. Is Ubisoft is going, well, we want our own Fortnite, we want our own PUBG, we want to make all this money. I think that's exactly what they're gonna start doing, personally.
Well, and I agree too, in the sense that I don't necessarily see a problem even with them branching off from doing 3 to 4 AAA titles a year. Like, what if they say, like, their big franchises right now? Obviously, Assassin's Creed. Like, Assassin's Creed in the last year also came out in this financial call that had its most successful year ever. The franchise did, with Valhalla and everything like that. So that's really cool to see. But so they got, they have Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Watch Dogs, and then probably the Tom Clancy games, like and stuff like that, or even Division. Like, those are kind of their big hitters. And so if an entry in one of those games is dropping Assassin's Creed was annual for quite a long time until they took a break after Odyssey to develop Valhalla. And so it's one of those things. For me, I look at that and be like, I'm okay with that if they're spaced out a little bit more. because then that gives me more time to play them. And to play other things that come in between. Like, I did want to play Legions. I want to play Watchdog Legion. I do want to play Far Cry 6. And I want to play the next Assassin's Creed that comes out. But if all those are hitting like in the same year, I have to pick and choose.
Yeah, so I totally agree.
They're going to lower the amount of those games that they're putting out every year, filling that gap with free-to-play experiences from new and same franchises. I'm not necessarily upset about that. I do agree what you're saying, though, in the terms of microtransactions. Yes, obviously, if it's free to play, you have to make your money somewhere. In being that through a battle pass system, cosmetics, that's the general go-tos in those arenas. But again, if you're giving me, like, I played Hyperscape. It wasn't my cup of tea for a battle royale. I'm still like hanging on to Apex Legends. It's great and fantastic, having a ball. So, it also definitely kind of frees me up to be like, I can drop into all these games, try them out for the first month or so after their release, see what I'm going to like, because obviously free to play, intrinsically, the game's free. You don't have to spend money on it, but you can if you want and you like it. So it's kind of cool. Like, okay, I'm not going to say no to free experiences that I can try out every so often whenever they're coming out. So I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing, because I think for my personal play style, like I said, I think it'll fit better. I'll have more time to finish their bigger titles, and I can have small free titles that I want to mess around with in forever. What I am curious to see, though, is what these experiences wind up looking like. Like, for example, what is a free-to-play Assassin's Creed game going to look like?
Yeah, I had the same thought, because I was thinking, how enjoyable, Jarrett, like, how enjoyable would Assassin's Creed still be if only about half of the content were still truly free, and then all the rest of the content were somehow paywall? Would that still be a good experience? I mean, this is very hypothetical. We're talking total hypotheticals. We don't know what's actually going to happen. This is just...
Well, and two, because I seriously doubt that whatever the free-to-play modes of these, it's not like they're going to take Assassin's Creed Valhalla and say, hey, it's free. If you want, here's the game to start playing it. And if they do, then if they do what I'm about to say, this will be terribly shitty and not good. But I told you, like, one of the big things about Assassin's Creed Valhalla that I've loved is that the main campaign is broken up into arcs that are an hour, 2 hours long, depending, as you go through the main story. If they came and been like, here's Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's free to play. You have the first 3 arcs free, and then after that, every additional, you can pay for additional arcs to play. That would be terrible. So I don't know if you can take the same, and obviously then you're just like, well, this is an incomplete game that I'm just buying piecemeal. So I don't necessarily know how you can take the current Assassin's Creed model and how the Assassin's Creed games play and then be like, this is a free-to-play thing. I think it has to be a drastic change in some way.
So you want to hear my conspiracy theory specifically for Assassin's Creed Valhalla? This won't happen.
Go for it.
I think that if they release it free-to-play, they're going to release it exclusively with your character having double shields, no other weapons. and if you want weapons, you got to buy them. It's double shields or nothing. That's what I think.
That would be hilarious and also terrible.
Oh, I think that would be so funny. If they actually did that, I would be like, good for you, Ubisoft. I like that gutsy move.
But, I mean, who knows? Because they did do... The Assassin's Creed games in the past have had multiplayer. So maybe they're like, for Assassin's Creed, it reinvents its multiplayer component in some way. It was difficult. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it. Because it was very... you would be hunting these other players who are also trying to assassinate you. So it's a very big game of cat and mouse. But also, it was just like you'd be walking along and randomly some person's just like, scat, and like just shanks you. And you're like, what? No, how? And you couldn't like block it, defend yourself. You just like, if you got caught, you got caught.
Oh, man.
So it was a very difficult game experience, I thought, but like interesting to play around in. So maybe they're going to go something like that. I do think, because they also announced in the same call that their pirate game that has been in development forever, Skull and Bones, was delayed to the fiscal year starting in April 2022. That game for sure is going to be free to play.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now. Like, it's going to be a free to play game. It's going to be an online multiplayer game anyway. I think that one's going free to play.
So this brings up a good point in that I would even say, I mean, it's probably not all, but the vast majority of free to play games are hinged on the multiplayer experience.
Right.
Almost no free to play game is intended to be played single player. You're supposed to be playing them online with communities. Part of my general level of concern about this is there are only so many gamers in the world. I mean, unless you're finding ways to convert non-gamers into gamers, you've got a pretty set standard of, okay, this is our market. Mm-hmm. There are only so many hours in a day and only so many options that people can funnel their time into for continuing online experiences.
Oh, yeah.
How many online games do I play right now? Virtually none, because I'm I'm joyfully stuck in Bravely Default, a couple of other games, and then my online one, which can and I do play single player, is Monster Hunter Rise. Mm-hmm. How many other free-to-play games, basically what I'm saying is I worry about continuing sizes of the player base.
Right.
Because when you've got a free-to-play game, it is entirely hinged on how many people are playing, because that makes the experience. And if people try something and they're like, oh, this is fine, but it's not good enough to keep their interest, you're going to have this big drop in player base, and it's going to impact the experience. So I feel like that's another thing to consider, which is that if we're having the market be flooded with all of these different options for free to play, you're going to have a lot of people spread out over a thinner. It's going to be just spread too thin, and that may or may not actually be something to worry about, but that's something that I think about, is like, do we actually have enough people to make all of these work?
Well, and two, because they're all the thing with free to play games too is like, yeah, you can play multiple of them, but you're right. You're gonna spend your money and spend your time in the one that clicks with you. For example, like, there are tons of battle royales that are free to play out there. I play Apex because that's the one that, like, is my jam. That's the one that I like the most. I enjoy the most. I have the most fun playing it. And yeah, I don't mind spending $10 every other month or so to get a battle pass that I want and stuff like that, and hunt through all the challenges and go like that. So I understand. I get what you're saying, though. Yeah, but I think people are going to gravitate to the ones they like, and those games will then keep the stronger player bases and whatnot. But it's also interesting to kind of like, Assassin's Creed. I'm not totally sure how that one is going to look in their free to play mode, because they say all their franchises are getting free to play companions. Yeah. So it's like, I don't necessarily know how Assassin's Creed would work. Tom Clancy games, or like Ghost Recon and stuff like that. Absolutely see how that could be free to play. Even Division, like, they're already doing it. I see how that one could work. A game I think that definitely would work better as free to play, not a full price game. Just Dance. You pay full price for it anyway. They give you a meager sampling of songs and stuff, usually like knockoff shitty versions of the songs. And then like, hey, if you want the good ones, you got to go pay for like the Just Dance Plus subscription anyway, or buy songs individually. Give me the base game free. With like 10 songs, and then you know what? And then if I can go pick and choose, like when like you have friends over for a party, you're like, oh, I really like that one song. Let people pick and choose songs. Just Dance would be a great one for free to play.
Or they could do like themed packs, like here's our K-pop pack, here's our metal pack, here's our EDM pack. That in particular, right to Ubisoft, Jared. Get them on the phone. That's a great idea.
I'm sending them this episode. Direct link to this timestamp so they can hear all the great ideas. But yeah, I see how Just Dance would be perfect for it. And like Skull and Bones, whenever we get to see what that looks like, that would be perfect for it. Free to play, but then like as you progress through it, there will be battle pass seasons where you could do a season of a battle pass that'll give you various cosmetics for your ships, various weapon upgrades, yada yada yada. And then you can additionally with that, you buy cosmetic items for your ships, your sailor outfits, and all that stuff. I see it clear as day. Can work. Will be great. Could work beautifully. The one thing that does interest me, though, and the one that I know this game specifically isn't going to be free to play because of how they've already talked about and said what the scope of this game is going to be, but Ubisoft's Star Wars title that they're working on.
Oh, yeah.
So does that mean we're going to get a free-to-play game from Ubisoft on Star Wars. That one I kind of could see maybe not that more being like a one-off thing. Like right now they're getting like the test game. Like, let's see how you guys do with a Star Wars title. And then after that, we may see some growth from that, especially if this is like the launch of a new Star Wars franchise IP, basically. Then I could see them branching off with a free-to-play. But my initial thought was, oh, are they going to do anything with that? But then I reassured myself, I was like, no. They've said it's going to be like this big single-player story, big campaign and all that jazz. So I'm not necessarily worried about that one coming out being like, hey, it's free-to-play. Because I would be upset by that. I want to see what Ubisoft give me. I want to see Ubisoft's take on a full premium AAA Star Wars title.
Yeah, make a real game.
Not one of these schlubby low-level free-to-play games. My God. Don't at me with that. But yeah, so I think, like what we've said, the pros, cons of this, like I do think that free-to-play is great for the low barrier of entry it offers. But yes, you're going to get hit with microtransactions. And that's up for everybody to determine your own comfort level with that and how much you're willing to spend. Then for the fewer premium titles per year gives me more time to finish them, which I'm all on board with that. Now, here's the thing that will be interesting, and that will, especially as this goes on and they develop more free-to-play games and titles. Activision recently made the announcement that all of their studios are in one shape or form working on Call of Duty to either support Warzone, support the next title, and all that stuff. Do you think that the same thing could happen with Ubisoft once they kind of hit their cash cow?
I think for sure. And this is yet another thing that brings me great levels of concern, because related to that Call of Duty news, that includes Toys for Bob, the makers of the Spyro remaster, which is excellent, the Crash Bandicoot remaster, which is also excellent. And it's like, I kind of don't love that. You're taking good talent away from other projects to work on a game that I personally do not find any enjoyment in. So I think that's pretty concerning. I just think that that's going to limit the scope of what types of games are being produced by bigger publishers, by bigger studios. Indie games will always be there for me, and I don't have to worry about that.
I mean, and it's not like they're saying that these studios are working completely and totally on Call of Duty. Like, they don't touch anything else. But you're right. How, if they took half of Toys for Bob's workforce to be able to work on Call of Duty as opposed to Spyro, that's going to affect, I mean, not necessarily Spyro, because unless they're making a brand new Spyro game, I know they're not there's not current development on that, but still, I understand the concern, and so that'll be interesting to see. I think if that does happen with Ubisoft in this new push, and I'm honestly I have hesitations about it, in the terms of what we've already talked about, but I'm still kind of, again, it's that optimism in me. I want to see it. I'm not writing it off as terrible. I'm not writing it off as great. I'm anxiously curious to see what this is going to look like.
Jarrett clued me into this Invincible meme that is a guy going, think, to somebody else that I guess is dying or whatever. I don't know.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, but Jarrett was joking to me about I imagine that's you shouting, think, and I'm the other guy, and I want to pull that up right now and slap our faces on it.
We got
think,
a couple.
Jarrett,
the big one is you really think this is going to work out good for the player? Think, Jarrett, think. My other favorite one is, you don't have to play. Do you think you have to play all titles in a franchise to understand the current release? You don't, Jarrett. Think. So if somebody could make those for us.
Oh my God!
Greatly
we've gotten some good memes in the past. Get on that, people. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, that's the gist. Is we're just hypothetically speaking about how we think things may eventually turn out. We could both be wrong. We could both be a little right. There could be things that we haven't even considered that eventually wind up coming out of the woodwork. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Is ultimately the gist.
Pretty much. But like I said, I'm excited to see how this transforms and how this does take shape, because you can't, and that's one of the big things that they said in this article too. Let me see if I can find the quote. Oh yeah, this is a purely, no, that's not what it was. Here it is. A on Twitter, this is again from the Video Game Chronicle article, it says, posting on Twitter, one of Ubisoft's senior analysts claimed the company's comments were in reference to free-to-play becoming a larger share of the revenue pie, not an indication that there will be less traditional paid games like Assassin's Creed. They wrote, quote, the content mix is expanding, not changing. A good comparison is the evolution of Call of Duty since Warzone. I mostly wanted to steer the conversation away from free-to-play games are replacing AAA paid games to free-to-play is going to be an additional way to experience some of these IPs. So it does seem like they are setting them up as separate. Like I said, I don't think my horror scenario that I shared of Assassin's Creed Valhalla is how this is going to like pan out and how they do it.
I think that double shields thing is going to happen. I'm calling it. I think that's going to be real.
So I think it will be very interesting to see. And I mean, too, like I'm excited to see what they make. What could a free-to-play Assassin's Creed look like? Obviously, if you guys have any thoughts, we'd love to hear what you guys think about all of this and potentially what you think a free-to-play experience could look like from some of your favorite Ubisoft franchises. But we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, with bated breath. I mean, because it'll probably be a few years before we start seeing the results of this announcement. As of right now, the Division Heartland is the big free-to-play, like the first big free-to-play that I think based off one of these franchises that Ubisoft's doing. So it'll be a bit probably before we see the Assassin's Creed one, the Watch Dogs one, and who knows, maybe eventually one day we'll see Skull and Bones. But
someday
we'll just wait and see. But like I said, we'd love to know what you all think about this. Are you pleased with this announcement? Are you horrified by this announcement? Are you like me and just cautiously optimistic that it's all going to be great? Let us know. Send us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com or jump on the Discord, talk about it with us there, social media, wherever we are online. You can talk about us and we'd love to talk about it with us. You can talk about us too, but we'd love to hear from you. But I think that pretty much wraps it up. Mogan, do you have any other additional thoughts on this, or are we good to let the good people go on with their day?
I think we're good.
Alrighty then. Well, this has been an episode of Team Chat Podcast, and until next time, everybody, I'm one of your hosts, Jared Wilson, joined across the power of the internet by my co-host, Rachel Mogan.
Adios.
We'll see you all next time.